Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Davis discovers the lost alien boy in the wreckage of a government building. The child wears royal clothing, a detail Davis initially overlooks as he cleans the boy's wounds. Only later does he recognize the imperial seal on the child's wrist, the mark of Gamelin royalty. This isn't just any lost alien child. This is Crown Prince Kira, heir to the empire Earth has battled for 5 bloody years. The year is 2187. The Earth-Gamelin War reaches its final, desperate days. Billions dead across 3 star systems, cities reduced to ash, planets scarred by orbital bombardments. And now, by pure chance, the future of both species rests in the hands of one human soldier. Davis crouches low in the rubble of what was once New Anchorage on Proxima B. The contested border world has changed hands 12 times during the conflict. Nothing remains of its gleaming spires except broken concrete and twisted metal. His combat armor, scratched and dented from countless engagements, blends with the gray destruction surrounding him. 3 hours ago, his recon squad encountered a Gamelin patrol. The resulting firefight scattered his team across 6 city blocks. His comms emit only static jammed by enemy tech. Standard protocol: proceed to the designated extraction point and wait for retrieval. A soft noise catches his attention. Davis raises his pulse rifle, targeting systems highlighting movement in a half-collapsed structure ahead. He advances cautiously, boots crunching on broken glass. Another sound, not the mechanical whir of Gamelin combat droids, but something organic, something afraid. Sweeping aside a fallen door panel, Davis sees him, a small Gamelin child huddled in the corner, blue skin dirty and scraped. Wide, frightened eyes. The elaborate embroidery on his clothing stands out. Note the utilitarian garments of civilian refugees. Davis hesitates. Standing orders are clear. All Gamelins are enemy combatants, but this is a child, no more than 8 by human standards. "Don't move," Davis says, lowering his weapon slightly. The boy trembles. "Please. No hurt," he manages in broken English. Davis kneels, keeping a safe distance. "Are you injured?" The child nods, revealing a deep gash on his arm. Every instinct built through 5 years of war screams at Davis to walk away. Instead, he unslings his medkit. "I'm going to help you, understand." As Davis cleans and seals the wound with biofoam, the boy speaks. "Kira, my name Kira." He explains in halting words that his transport was attacked 3 days ago. Everyone else died. He's been hiding, alone, surviving on emergency rations. "We need to move," Davis says, glancing at his tactical display. "Earth forces hold a position 8 kilometers south. I'll take you somewhere safe." They've barely traveled 2 blocks when the shots ring out. Specialized energy weapons, Gamelin Special Forces. Davis grabs Kira and dives behind a collapsed wall as purple plasma bolts sizzle overhead. "Surrender the child," a translated voice booms. "This is your only warning." Davis counts 6 distinct weapon signatures on his helmet display, too many for a frontal assault. He spots a maintenance entrance to the city's underground tunnel system 3 meters away. "Hold on," he whispers to Kira, who clings to his armor. Davis tosses a flashbang in the opposite direction and sprints for the tunnel entrance when it detonates. Plasma fire follows them as they descend into darkness. Safe momentarily in the tunnel network, Davis activates his armor lights. As he helps Kira remove his torn outer garment, something catches his eye: a metallic emblem embedded in the skin of the boy's inner wrist. The royal seal of the Gamelin imperial family. Davis freezes. Intelligence briefings flash through his mind. Crown Prince Kira, sole heir to Emperor Dislok, reported missing during a diplomatic mission. "You're the prince," Davis says, realization washing over him. Kira looks up, fear giving way to a regal certainty beyond his years. "I am king now. Father is dead." Davis stands immobile, processing the implications. With Earth forces preparing their final assault, and the Gamelin military in disarray searching for their missing ruler, He now holds the key to ending the war, becoming its most pivotal casualty. He faces an impossible choice: deliver the young king to human authorities as a prisoner of war, the greatest intelligence coup in the conflict's history, or risk everything to return him to his people and open a channel for peace. "I no understand what you are," Davis corrected himself, mindful of addressing royalty even in this desperate situation. "But we need to move. Those troops won't stop searching." Kira nodded, his small blue face set with tenacity far beyond his years. Despite his regal bearing, he was still a child, frightened, injured, and now apparently orphaned. "The tunnels," Davis said, consulting his tactical display. "They run for kilometers beneath the city. We can use them to avoid detection." Davis guided Kira into the dark maintenance access tunnel, activating his armor's night vision. The passage ahead stretched into darkness, pipes and conduits snaking along the ceiling. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, the sound echoing through the confined space. "Stay close," Davis instructed, resting his hand on the boy's shoulder. They moved steadily through the labyrinthine undercity of New Anchorage. Davis checked his tactical map constantly, plotting a course that avoided known patrol routes of both sides. The boy matched his pace without complaint, though Davis noticed his breathing growing increasingly labored as the hours passed. 12 hours into their journey, Davis paused at a junction to consult his map. Behind him, Kira slumped against the tunnel wall, his blue skin taking on an ashen quality. Davis knelt beside him, concern overriding his military caution. "Your Highness, Kurahat's wrong. Air burns," the boy wheezed, his chest rising and falling rapidly. "Need medicine." Davis activated his medical scanner, sweeping it over the child's body. The readings flashed red across his HU: elevated temperature, compromised respiratory function. The pieces clicked into place. Proxima B's atmosphere contained trace elements toxic to gamelan physiology. The longer Kira remained exposed, the worse his condition would become. "Hold on," Davis said, scooping the boy into his arms. "I know somewhere we might find help." His tactical map showed an abandoned medical outpost 2 kilometers east, part of the human defensive line, before the gamelans pushed them back 3 months ago. Davis moved with renewed urgency, the weight of the young king barely registering against his powered armor. The outpost entrance bore scorch marks from energy weapons. Inside, emergency lighting cast everything in dim red. Davis laid Kira on an examination table and scanned the facility. "I'll find some supplies," he said, moving to the storage cabinets. Davis rummaged through the remains of the hastily evacuated medical bay. He found a universal scanner, antiseptic, biofoam injectors, and various medications non-specifically designed for gamelan physiology. He returned to Kira, whose skin had taken on a grayish tint. Davis cleaned and sealed the boy's external wounds, but the scanner confirmed his fears. Kira was suffering from respiratory inflammation caused by atmospheric toxins. "This will help with the pain," Davis said, administering a mild analgesic. "But you need proper care." Kira nodded weakly, his royal composure slipping to reveal the scared child beneath. Davis squeezed his small hand, a gesture that would have been unthinkable days ago. "The communications center might still be operational," Davis said. "I'll check." In the adjacent room, Davis discovered an emergency transmitter still connected to the military network. The screen glowed with the Earth Defense Force insignia. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the keypad. A call to EDF command would bring evacuation and deliver the gamelan heir into custody. Earth's greatest prisoner of war. The intelligence value alone would be incalculable. The war could end with humanity dictating terms. The sound of movement behind him interrupted his thoughts. Kira stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame for support. "You, call your people," the boy asked, eyes fixed on the transmitter. "I'm considering our options," Davis replied, neither confirming nor denying. Kira approached slowly, reaching into Davis's tactical vest. Before Davis could react, the boy withdrew the photograph he kept there. Davis, his brother Michael, Michael's wife, and their 2 children taken during his last leave on Earth. Family? Kira asked, studying the image. Davis nodded. My brother's family, they live in New Boston. Using Davis's suit AI to translate, Kira pointed to the children in the photo. Like me, small. His finger moved to Davis and his brother. Brothers protect. Yes, Davis said softly. Brothers protect each other. My father Emperor Durzendid, Kira continued, his broken English supplemented by the AI translation. 3 months passed, not in battle, assassinated. Davis stared at the boy. Assassinated. Our intelligence reports indicate Emperor Durzend still leads your forces. No, Kira shook his head emphatically. Grand Admiral Velker rules now, as regent, until I am. Groaned, but Velker. The boy's face darkened. Velker ordered attack on my ship, wants me dead, wants to be emperor. Davis processed this revelation. If true, it changed everything about the war. Earth forces don't know your emperor is dead. Many Gamilons do not know, Kira explained. Velker keeps secret, makes war worse. Father wanted peace talks. The implications stunned Davis. The escalation of hostilities over the past 3 months, the orbital bombardment of Earth's colony on Europa, the destruction of 3 civilian transports all occurred after Durzend's alleged death, under Velker's command. A wheezing cough interrupted Kira's explanation, his condition visibly worsening. Davis guided him back to the medical bay, mind racing with possibilities and consequences. In the silence of the abandoned outpost, Davis made his decision. He returned to the communications center and activated the transmitter, inputting an encrypted channel code. The screen flickered, resolving into the face of Captain Marcus Reynolds, his former commanding officer, a hard man with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Authentication code, Reynolds demanded. Davis provided his identification sequence. Reynolds' eyes widened. Davis, you're listed as MIA. Your squad reported heavy contact and no time, sir, Davis interrupted. I need immediate extraction. I have sensitive intelligence that could change the course of the war. Reynolds studied him through the screen. Nature of this intelligence. Can't discuss over comms, sir, but it's critical. After a moment's hesitation, Reynolds nodded. I'll lead a team personally. 6 hours Ada, but Davis, that sector is heating up. Both our forces and Gamilon units are converging on your position. Something big is happening. Understood, sir. I'll be waiting. Davis out. As the screen went dark, Davis returned to check on Kira. The boy slept fitfully, breath coming in shallow gasps. While searching for additional medication, Davis noticed something among Kira's belongings, a small device with distinctly Gamilon design. He examined it carefully, recognizing it as a communicator, military grade with encryption capabilities beyond anything he'd seen in Gamilon tech they'd captured. Against all training and protocol, Davis activated it. The device projected a holographic interface. Gamilon script scrolled across it, then tenacitied into a single connection option. Davis pressed it. Seconds later, the face of a female Gamilon appeared, tall, regal, with the characteristic blue skin of her species but adorned with facial markings that indicated high military rank. Who activates this channel? She demanded in accented English. How did you? Her eyes widened as she spotted Kira in the background. The prince. Is he? He's alive, Davis said, angling the device to show Kira. But sick, he needs medical attention. The Gamilon woman's composure broke momentarily. I am Commander Telara, Imperial Guard, the prince's protector. Human soldier, do you know what you possess? I know he's king now, Davis replied. And I know about Velker. Telara's expression hardened. Velker has declared Prince Kira dead in an Earth terrorist attack. He schedules his coronation as emperor in 3 days. Without proof the prince lives, the resistance cannot stop him. Resistance? Not all Gamilons support Velker's war, Telara explained. Many military leaders remain loyal to the royal family, to peace. We need the prince returned to us. Davis's tactical scanner pinged with proximity alerts. 2 signature on human squad approaching from the east, another Gamelin unit from the west. Both would reach the outpost within 30 minutes. We're about to have company, Davis said, checking his weapon systems. Both your people and mine. Telara leaned closer to the projection. Listen carefully, human. If Velker's forces find the prince, they will kill him. If your military captures him, they will use him as a weapon against our people. Neither outcome ends this war. Kira stirred on the medical bed, eyes fluttering open as his fever worsened. Davis looked between the boy, the communicator, and his tactical display showing the approaching forces. The choice before him would shape the fate of 2 civilizations. Davis stared at his tactical display, the 2 forces converging on their position like the jaws of a trap. 6 minutes until contact with the first patrol. He glanced at Kira, wheezing on the medical bed. The boy's condition deteriorated by the minute without intervention. He wouldn't survive long enough to be captured by either side. I can help him, Davis said to Telara's holographic image. But we need to move. Both forces will reach this position soon. You would aid the prince? Why? Suspicion colored Telara's voice. Davis looked at the royal child struggling for breath. Because this war needs to end. The right way. He terminated the connection and moved swiftly to the medical supplies he'd gathered earlier. His combat medic training included basic knowledge of xenophysiology enough to recognize that Kira needed respiratory support calibrated to Gamelin biology. Davis improvised, modifying an oxygen converter using the medical bay's equipment. He adjusted the atmospheric mixture based on known Gamelin physiological requirements from his field manual. This might help, he said, fitting the mask over Kira's face. Breathe normally. Kira inhaled cautiously. His breathing gradually steadied as the modified mixture filtered the atmospheric toxins. Color returned to his blue features. Better? Davis asked. Kira nodded weakly. Thank you. The tactical alert chimed again. 4 minutes to contact. Davis gathered essential supplies, medication, rations, weapons, and both communication devices. He slung his rifle across his back and lifted Kira into his arms. We need a diversion, he muttered. Davis accessed the outpost's emergency systems through his armor interface. He triggered the facility's security protocols, setting off alarms throughout the complex. Warning lights flashed as automated defense systems activated. He moved to a maintenance panel near the back of the medical bay and pried it open, revealing a narrow shaft leading downward. Old maintenance tunnels, he explained to Kira. Not on standard maps. Can you hold on to me? Kira nodded, wrapping his arms around Davis's neck. Davis secured the boy against his chest, then lowered himself into the shaft. The vertical descent continued for 20 meters before opening into a horizontal tunnel. Unlike the modern service corridors above, these passageways had been carved during Proxima B's initial colonization, Fazar reinforced dirt and stone, rather than prefabricated metals. Support beams sagged with age and dust coated everything. Davis activated his night vision and moved eastward. The spaceport lay 30 kilometers in that direction, their best chance for finding transport off-world. We will go to my people, Kira asked, his voice muffled through the breathing apparatus. First, we need to get somewhere safe, Davis replied. These tunnels should lead us away from both forces. The communicator in his pocket buzzed. Davis hesitated before answering. Captain Reynolds' face appeared on the small screen. Davis, where the hell are you? My team landed at the extraction point 10 minutes ago. Sorry, sir. Ran into complications. Moving to secondary extraction coordinates. Davis transmitted a set of coordinates 5 kilometers in the opposite direction of their actual route. Reynolds' eyes narrowed. Those coordinates put you deep in contested territory. Yes, sir. Had to evade a Gamelin patrol. Will update when secure. Negative, hold position, we're coming to you. Can't do that, sir. Situation fluid. Davis out. He terminated the connection before Reynolds could protest further. They continued through the deteriorating tunnels for 6 hours, stopping occasionally to check Kira's condition and administer medication. The boy's resilience impressed Davish, rarely complained despite his obvious discomfort. As they rounded a bend, Davis froze. A figure stood blocking their path, aiming a light in their direction. "That's far enough," a voice called out. "Identify yourself." Davis raised one hand while keeping Kira partially shielded behind him. "Lieutenant James Davis, Earth Defense Force." The light lowered slightly, revealing a bearded man in worn civilian clothing. "Military, what are you doing down here?" His eyes widened when he spotted Kira. "Is that a Gamelin child? Who are you?" Davis demanded, hand hovering near his sidearm. "Dr. Nathan Reeves, xenobiologist." The man's attention remained fixed on Kira. "Why do you have a Gamelin child, and why does he look so ill?" "Atmospheric toxicity," Davis explained cautiously. "His respiratory system can't filter Proxima's air properly." Reeves approached slowly. "I can help. I have equipment-specialized medical technology for comparative xenobiology research." Davis kept his body between Reeves and Kira. "Why are you still here? Civilians were evacuated months ago." "Some research can't be abandoned," Reeves shrugged. "My work on Proxima's ecosystem is too important. Besides, neither side cares about a lone scientist." Davis studied the man, weighing options. Kira's breathing had become labored again despite the converter. "How far to your equipment?" "My research station is 1/2 kilometer from here." Reeves gestured down a side tunnel. "I can treat him properly there." With few alternatives, Davis followed the scientist through a series of narrow passages that eventually opened into a larger chamber converted into a living space. Beyond it lay a surprisingly well-equipped laboratory filled with specimens and monitoring equipment. Reeves indicated a medical bed surrounded by diagnostic systems. "Put him there." Davis gently laid Kira on the bed. Reeves immediately began calibrating equipment, attaching sensors to Kira's chest and neck. "Fascinating," he murmured. "I've never examined a Gamelin this closely. Juvenile specimens are particularly rare." "He's not a specimen," Davis said sharply. "He needs help." Reeves nodded, switching to professional mode. "The toxicity levels are significant but manageable. I've developed treatments for various xenobiological respiratory systems." He prepared an injection. "This will neutralize the compounds causing inflammation." As Reeves administered treatment, Davis explained their situation, Kira's identity, Velker's betrayal, and the forces hunting them from both sides. "You're harboring the Gamelin King," Reeves whispered, looking at the sedated child with newfound awe, "and evidence that could end the war." "If we can get him back to the Loyalist forces," Davis confirmed. While Kira rested under sedation, Davis established communication with Commander Tellara again. Her holographic image appeared, tense and guarded. "The prince lives." "He's receiving treatment," Davis confirmed. "But we need extraction. I propose a meeting at the abandoned mining facility in Sector 9. Telara's eyes narrowed. "Why would I trust a human soldier with our king?" Davis transferred data from Kira's communication device to Tellara. "This contains Velker's signed orders to attack the diplomatic vessel, the evidence you need to expose him." Tellara reviewed the data, her expression hardening. "These are authentic. Where did you get them?" "From Kira's personal device. He preserved them." "The mining facility is acceptable," Tellara said after consideration. "But understand this, human, if this is deception, we will hunt you across the stars." "No deception," Davis assured her. "Just a chance to end this war." As he terminated the connection, an alert sound doctor from Dr. Reeves' security system. The scientist hurried to a monitoring station, his face paling. "We have company," he said, pointing to thermal signatures on a display. "A dozen figures approaching from the northwest. They're wearing some kind of specialized armor, not standard gamelan design. Davis examined the feed. The soldiers wore crimson-marked armor, Velker's personal guard. How did they find us? The communication, Reeves suggested. Despite encryption, they must have traced it. Another alert sounded. The security system highlighted orbital scan patterns consistent with Earth military search protocols. Reynolds is scanning for human biosignatures, Davis realized. We're caught between both sides. Reeves hesitated, then moved to a concealed panel in the laboratory floor. He entered a code, revealing a staircase leading downward. I have a modified survey craft in an underground hangar, he explained. Retrofitted with experimental stealth technology, it can get you to the mining facility. Why would you help us? Davis asked. Reeves looked at the sleeping gamelan child. Because I've spent my career studying life-reading to understand the connections between species. I won't stand by while people perpetuate a war built on lies. They gathered essential supplies and medical equipment, loading them into the small craft hidden in the underground chamber. Reeves initiated the research station's power core shutdown sequence. The controlled overload will mask our departure and destroy any evidence we were here, he explained as they boarded the vessel. Davis secured Kira in a passenger seat, checking his breathing mask. The boy awakened, eyes clear for the first time in hours. We're going to meet your people, Davis told him. Commander Tellara is bringing forces loyal to you. Kira studied Davis, then removed an ornate insignia from his garment. He pressed it into Davis's hand. Royal authentication token, Kira explained. Shows you friend to gamelan throne. Loyal forces will recognize. Davis examined the insignia before securing it to his tactical vest. Thank you. The station's lights flickered as the power core began its shutdown sequence. Through the viewports, Davis spotted movement at the perimeter, crimson-armored figures advancing on the facility. Time to go, Reeves announced, initiating the craft's launch sequence. The mining facility is 40 minutes east at maximum speed. We'll need to navigate through contested airspace. The craft's engines hummed to life as the hangar doors above them opened. Beyond those doors lay a dangerous journey across a war-torn planetan, perhaps their only chance to end a conflict that had claimed millions of lives. The survey craft shuddered as Reeves initiated launch procedures. Its engines hummed to life, a high-pitched whine filling the small cabin as the hangar doors above parted to reveal Proxima B's twilight sky. Securing for takeoff, Reeves announced, his fingers dancing across the controls. Stealth systems active. Davis strapped Kira into a passenger seat, checking the breathing apparatus one final time. Hold tight, this might get rough. As the craft lifted from its moorings, a series of explosions rocked the research station beneath them. The controlled power core shutdown sequence had begun, cascading through the facility with precise timing. Through the viewport, Davis watched as Velker's crimson-armored soldiers scattered from the perimeter, momentarily disoriented by the blast. Perfect distraction, Reeves said, guiding the craft upward through the hangar's narrow exit shaft. Thermal signature will mask our departure completely. The survey craft climbed rapidly, emerging from the hidden facility just as the main power core detonated. A bright flash illuminated the landscape below, followed by a secondary explosion that consumed the entire research station. Davis's tactical display registered scattered Earth force signatures retreating from the blast radius. Captain Reynolds' search teams caught off guard by the unexpected detonation. Both teams falling back, Davis observed, studying the sensor readings. We've bought ourselves some time. The craft accelerated eastward, its sleek profile cutting through the upper atmosphere. Davis established a medical monitoring link between his tactical display and Kira's vitals. The boy's breathing had steadied, but his biological readings remained weaker than Davis would have liked. Kira's eyes fluttered open briefly. "Where? Going?" he asked, words slurred from the sedative Reeves had administered. "Meeting your people," Davis answered, adjusting the breathing mask. "Rest now." The prince slipped back into unconsciousness as the craft continued its ascent. Davis moved to the cockpit, taking the co-pilot's chair beside Reeves. The scientist's expression remained focused, hands steady on the controls despite the dangerous situation. "Mining facility is 40 minutes east," Reeves said, pointing to a navigation display. "But we'll need to cross an active combat zone to reach it." Davis studied the tactical overlay. Earth and Gamelin forces had engaged in a massive aerial battle spanning nearly 30 kilometers of Proxima's equatorial region directly in their flight path. "No way around?" he asked. Reeves shook his head. "Not without adding hours to our journey." "The combat zone actually provides cover. Both sides will be too occupied to notice a small stealth craft." The scientist's prediction proved accurate as they approached the battlefield. Dozens of fighters from both factions engaged in aerial combat, while larger vessels exchanged devastating salvos above. Reeves guided their craft through the chaos with remarkable skill, weaving between debris fields and staying clear of weapons fire. "You fly like you've done this before," Davis observed. "Xenobiology research often requires reaching restricted areas," Reeves replied with a tight smile. Learning to pilot under challenging conditions became a necessary skill. A warning alarm blared as their sensors detected incoming ordnance. A stray missile, whether Earth or Gamelin, was impossible to determine, had veered from its intended target and was racing toward their position. "Brace!" Reeves called, banking the craft sharply. The missile detonated 50 meters from their starboard side. The shockwave hammered the survey craft, sending it spinning through the turbulent air. Red warnings flashed across every control panel as Reeves fought to stabilize their flight. "Damage report," Davis demanded, checking Kira's vital signs remotely. "Port stabilizer compromised," Reeves responded, hands flying across the controls. "Can't maintain this altitude with the damage. We need to descend." The craft lurched downward, bleeding altitude, as Reeves guided it beneath the main combat zone. Davis knew the risks at lower altitude. They'd be more vulnerable to detection despite their stealth systems. "There," Reeves pointed to a deep canyon stretching across the landscape below. "We can use the terrain for cover." The scientists guided their damaged craft into the narrow geological formation. Sheer rock walls rose on either side as they followed the winding canyon, its natural covering shielding them from orbital scans. Davis noticed an anomalous reading on the sensor display. "We've got something ahead. Energy signature." The canyon widened slightly, revealing the Sorcia Gamelin scout ship, its sleek blue hull cracked and partially embedded in the canyon floor. Active distress beacons pulsed from the vessel's communication array. "Keep going," Reeves urged. "We can't afford delays." Davis studied the crash site. "That's a loyalist vessel, Telara's forces. There might be survivors with information about our rendezvous." Reeves hesitated, then nodded, bringing their craft down beside the crashed scout ship. "I'll monitor for pursuit. Be quick." Davis unstrapped, checking his weapon. "Watch Kira. If anything approaches, I'll leave immediately," Reeves assured him. "The mission takes priority." Davis exited through the craft's side hatch, the acrid air of Proxima be burning his lungs despite his filtration system. He approached the downed Gamelin vessel cautiously, weapon ready. The scout ship's main hatch had been forced open from within. Davis peered inside, activating his tactical light. The interior was mostly intact despite the crash, though control systems sparked intermittently. A figure slumped in the pilot's chair, blue-skinned and dressed in the distinctive silver-trimmed uniform worn by Telara's forces. "Hello," Davis called. "I'm not here to harm you." The Gamelin pilot stirred, raising a hand to shield against Davis's light. Bloodarcher and more viscous than human blood coated the left side of his face from a head wound. "Human," the Gamelin rasped, reaching weakly for a sidearm. Davis raised his hands. I'm with Prince Kira, he's safe. We're meeting Commander Tellara. The pilot froze, then slowly lowered his weapon. The king lives, truly, Davis nodded. He's aboard my ship. Who are you? Lieutenant Mako, the Gamelin answered, wincing as he shifted position. Forward reconnaissance for Commander Tellara. We were to secure the rendezvous point, but Velker's forces ambushed us. He coughed, blue-tinged blood speckling his lips. They know about the meeting, human. They intercepted partial communications. Davis's tactical training immediately assessed the implications. The mining facility is compromised. Completely, Mako confirmed. Velker has positioned battle cruisers nearby and deployed ground forces. He gestured toward a damaged console. My ship's communication array remains functional. Secure channel to Commander Tellara. Davis helped the injured Gamelin activate the system. After a series of authentication protocols, Commander Tellara's holographic image materialized above the console, her expression hardening at the sight of Davis. Lieutenant Mako, she acknowledged. And the human soldier. Where is the prince? Safe, Commander, Davis reported. But we have a problem. Lieutenant Mako confirms the rendezvous point is compromised. Tellara nodded grimly. Velker has moved faster than anticipated. 3 battle cruisers currently surround the mining facility. We cannot approach without engaging in full combat, which risks the prince's safety. Davis considered their options. We need an alternative meeting location. There is one possibility, Tellara said after a momentary pause. An ancient archaeological site beneath the northern polar ice cap. Its existence is known only to the royal family and their closest advisors. Velker would never anticipate us gathering there. A weak voice interrupted from behind Davis. I can guide them. Davis turned to find Prince Kira standing in the doorway of the Scout S-Doctor, supported by Dr. Reeves. The boy's breathing remained labored despite the mask, but his eyes showed newfound clarity. Your Highness, Mako gasped, attempting to rise in deference despite his injuries. Kira approached slowly, removing his breathing mask momentarily. Lieutenant Mako of House Terk, your service honors our people. The young prince turned to Davis, his voice strengthening as he addressed both the human and Commander Tellara's hologram. The human soldier, Lieutenant Davis, has saved my life multiple times. By my royal authority, I grant him temporary diplomatic immunity and protection under Gamelin royal law. Mako's eyes widened in shock as his military implant registered the decree. Commander Tellara's holographic image flickered as she processed this unprecedented action. It is done, Mako confirmed, the implant in his wrist glowing briefly to indicate the royal command had been formally registered. The human now stands under royal protection. Tellara's expression remained unreadable as she addressed Davis directly. It seems you have earned something no human has ever received, Lieutenant. We will rendezvous at the polar site, transmitting coordinates now. As Davis helped Prince Kira back toward their craft, a warning alarm sounded from both vessels' sensor arrays. Multiple Earth signatures entering the region, Reeves called from the survey craft's hatch. They've found us. Davis studied the tactical display, recognizing the formation patterns immediately. That's Reynolds. He's tracked our position. A realization struck him. Not through technology, through prediction. He knows how I think, where I'd likely go. The distinctive profile of the EDF Harbinger Reynolds command ship appeared at the head of the approaching formation. We need to move now, Davis urged, helping Mako from his chair. Can you walk? The Gamelin lieutenant struggled to his feet, leaning heavily against Davis. My injuries are significant, but I will manage. They boarded the survey craft quickly, Reeves already initiating launch procedures as Davis secured both Kira and Mako into passenger seats. The craft lifted off just as Earth Force dropships appeared on the horizon. Setting course for the northern polar region, Reeves announced, pushing the engines to maximum thrust. Estimated arrival in 53 minutes. Davis monitored Lieutenant Mako's condition, noting the gamelan's rapid deterioration. He's losing too much blood. His cardiovascular system is failing. Reeves glanced back from the controls. I have basic medical equipment, but nothing specifically for gamelan physiology. He needs a blood transfusion, but we don't have compatible gamelan blood products. Kira removed his breathing mask, his voice clear despite the effort it clearly cost him. Use my blood. The suggestion shocked both Davis and Reeves. Even Mako's eyes widened in protest. Highness, no, Mako objected weakly. Royal blood is sacred. Our traditions forbid, traditions that separate us led to this war, Kira interrupted, showing authority beyond his years. I am king. I decide which traditions matter. He extended his arm toward Davis. Take what he needs. Davis looked to Reeves, who nodded slowly. Gamelan royal bloodlines are genetically compatible with all Gamelan citizens in evolutionary adaptation, ensuring the ruling family could provide for their people in emergencies. It's traditionally forbidden, but scientifically sound. Working together, they established a direct transfusion line between the prince and lieutenant. Davis monitored both patients carefully as Kira's royal blood flowed into Mako's veins. The lieutenant's condition stabilized gradually, color returning to his blue features as vital signs strengthened. Reeves suddenly cursed from the cockpit. We've got problems. Engine performance dropping. The damage from that missile strike was worse than I thought. The craft shuddered as they entered the polar region, ice fields stretching endlessly below them. Temperature readings plummeted outside -70 degrees Celsius with howling winds whipping across the desolate landscape. Can we reach the archaeological site? Davis asked, joining Reeves at the controls. The scientist shook his head. Not directly. We'll need to make an emergency landing. He pointed to a relatively flat ice shelf. There, 15 kilometers from the coordinates Telara provided. The descent was controlled but rough. The survey craft bounced twice against the ice before sliding to a halt, its engines sputtering out completely as systems powered down. We're grounded, Reeves stated grimly. No way to repair this damage in these conditions. Davis assessed their situation through the viewport. Blinding white stretched in all directions, punctuated by jagged ice formations. Wind-driven snow reduced visibility to meters. We need to reach that site on foot, he said. What supplies do we have? A thorough inventory revealed emergency thermal gear designed for human biology and sufficient for Gamelan needs. Davis knew their alien companions would be particularly vulnerable to the extreme cold, their physiological makeup poorly suited to such low temperatures. I have an idea, Davis said, examining the craft's environmental system. We can repurpose the power cells to create portable heating units. Working quickly, Davis extracted core components from the craft's life support systems, reconfiguring them into makeshift heating devices that could be carried. He attached the units to harnesses for both Kira and Mako. These will keep your core temperatures stable, he explained, helping the Gamelans into the modified equipment. But we need to move quickly. Battery life is limited. Davis secured Prince Kira to his back, the boy's arm doctor wrapped around his neck. Dr. Reeves helped Lieutenant Mako, supporting the wounded Gamelan as they exited the craft into the bitter cold. Which way? Davis asked through chattering teeth, the wind immediately cutting through even his thermal gear. Kira pointed to a distant ice formation barely visible through the swirling snow. There. Ancient star maps show hidden passages beneath the ice. They lead to the site. They trudged forward, each step a battle against driving snow and treacherous footing. Davis monitored the heating units constantly, watching power levels diminish faster than anticipated. Halfway to their destination, Davis's tactical sensors detected new signatures. Dropships, Earth Force. Reynolds deployed special forces, Reeves confirmed, checking a handheld scanner. Cold weather combat units. They're tracking our crashed vessel. Simultaneously, Lieutenant Mako's military implant activated, displaying Gamelin tactical data. Commander Telara's forces have arrived at the rendezvous point, but they're engaged with Velker's blockade in the upper atmosphere. A massive explosion suddenly illuminated the sky above them, the sound reaching them seconds later as a distant rumble. The ice beneath their feet trembled. Thermal detonator, Mako identified. Velker's cruisers are attempting to melt the ice shelf, eliminate both us and Telara's approaching forces. Fractures appeared in the ice around them, thin lines rapidly expanding into chasms that separated them from their planned route. Davis pulled Kira closer as a fissure opened meters away, releasing trapped gases from beneath the ancient ice. The destabilization will reach the archaeological site, Mako warned, checking his implant's data. We cannot reach Commander Telara in time. Kira tightened his grip around Davis's neck, speaking directly into his ear. There's another way. The site contains more than artifacts. Davis turned his head to hear the prince over the howling wind. A royal transport gate, Kira continued. Ancient technology forbidden for generations. It allows instantaneous travel between paired locations. Where does it lead? Davis asked. The throne room on Gamelin Prime, Kira answered. Accessible only by those with royal blood. It's how I will return to claim my throne before Velker's coronation. Davis processed this revelation as another explosion rocked the ice shelf. Velker was systematically destroying the entire region. Commander Telara's forces remained engaged in orbit, unable to reach them, while Captain Reynolds' troops closed in from behind. The implications crystallized in Davis's mind. Rather than delivering Prince Kira to Telara's forces as planned, they could bypass the entire battlefield. They could transport directly to Gamelin Prime, bringing the rightful heir to the throne immediately. It would also mean becoming the first human to ever set foot on the Gamelin homeworld, a planet where his species was universally despised after years of brutal warfare. Davis made his decision, turning toward Reeves and Mako. Change of plans. We're heading for this transport gate. We're going to Gamelin Prime. The ice continued fracturing around them as Davis led his unlikely companions forward, the young alien king secure on his back, their path illuminated by the flashes of orbital combat above. Behind them, the signatures of Earth's special forces drew closer. Ahead lay an ancient alien site, and beyond that, a world no human had ever seen. The ice groaned beneath their feet as Davis led the group forward. Every few seconds, new fractures raced across the surface like lightning, the sound of splintering ice mixing with the howl of polar winds. Davis adjusted Prince Kira's weight on his back, feeling the young royal's shallow breathing against his neck. The site entrance should be 200 meters ahead, Kira said, his voice barely audible above the storm. A massive crack split the ice directly in their path. Davis halted abruptly, nearly causing Reeves and Mako to collide with him. What had been solid ground moments before was now a 100-meter chasm plunging into darkness. End of the line, Reeves said, peering over the edge. We need another route. Davis checked his tactical display. No time. Reynolds' team is 3 minutes behind us, and I'm picking up Gamelin's signatures approaching from the east, likely Velker's ground forces. Lieutenant Mako slumped against Reeves, his strength fading despite the royal blood transfusion. The portable heating units are failing. We have 20 minutes at most before hypothermia becomes critical for the prince and me. Davis surveyed their limited equipment, mind racing through possibilities. I need everyone's heating units and emergency cables. Now. Working quickly, Davis disassembled the heating devices, extracting power cells and metal components. He fashioned a crude grappling hook from the framework, attaching it to the strongest cable from their emergency supplies. This should reach, he said, testing the hook's weight. Mako goes first. Reeves follows. I'll cross with the prince last. Davis planted his feet and hurled the grappling hook across the chasm. It caught on an ice formation on the opposite side. He pulled the line taut, securing it to a frozen outcropping behind them. Improvised zipline, he explained, fashioning a simple harness from remaining cables. Hang on and slide across. Lieutenant Mako eyed the thin cable spanning the abyss. You expect this to support my weight? It'll hold, Davis assured him, helping the injured gamelin into the harness. Keep your arms tucked and don't look down. Mako pushed off, sliding down the angled cable. The line sagged alarmingly but held. He landed roughly on the opposite side, collapsing to his KDRS but quickly signaling success. Dr. Reeves followed, crossing with scientific precision. Your turn, Lieutenant, he called back. Davis secured Prince Kira to his chest. Hold tight, Your Highness. A thunderous crack erupted behind them. Davis spun to see the entire ice shelf collapsing, the destruction racing toward their position. Jump! He shouted, leaping onto the cable as the ground beneath his feet disintegrated. They slid rapidly down the line, the combined weight of two bodies causing the cable to stretch dangerously. Halfway across, Davis heard the telltale sound of metal straining. The grappling hook was pulling free. With a metallic ping, the hook dislodged, sending Davis and Kira plummeting. Davis's right hand shot out, grabbing the falling cable before they dropped into the abyss. Pain lanced through his shoulder as their full weight jerked against the joint. Lieutenant! Reeves shouted from above. Davis hung suspended, Prince Kira clutching him tightly. The edge was still 10 meters away. His fingers began to slip on the icy cable. Take the prince. Davis called up, muscles screaming. No, Kira said firmly. We both make it or neither does. Davis gritted his teeth, pulling his left hand up to join the right on the cable. Inch by excruciating inch, he hauled them upward, using the swinging momentum to make progress toward the edge. His tactical training took over, calculating muscle groups, conserving energy, maximizing efficiency. With a final surge of strength, Davis swung close enough for Reeves and Mako to grab Kira's outstretched hand. They pulled the prince to safety first, then helped Davis scramble onto solid ice. Davis lay gasping, limbs trembling from exertion. Everyone, still breathing. Thanks to you, Mako acknowledged. The entrance, Kira pointed ahead, where a massive stone doorway emerged from the ice wall. Ancient gamelin hieroglyphs covered its surface, partially obscured by frost. Davis helped the prince to his feet and they approached the imposing structure. Despite its apparent age, the doorway showed no signs of structural damage. Sealed for 10,000 years, Kira explained, reaching toward a specific symbol carved into the center. Only royal blood can open it. The prince pressed his palm against the carved glyph. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then blue energy patterns illuminated across the door's surface, spreading outward like ripples on water. Ancient mechanisms ground to life within the ice, and the massive stone slab slid sideways, revealing darkness beyond. Inside, quickly, Mako urged, glancing back at their tracks in the snow. Reynolds' forces will be here soon. They entered a vast chamber carved from the polar bedrock. As their eyes adjusted, details emerged from the darkness. Towering pillars, intricate wall carvings, and artifacts displayed on pedestals throughout the space. The temperature inside was notably warmer than the polar surface. Residual power from the ancient systems, Kira explained, touching a wall panel that illuminated at his touch. The entire chamber gradually brightened, revealing interconnected rooms extending deeper into the complex. Davis followed Prince Kira through a series of chambers, each wall covered with elaborate murals depicting gamelin history. The prince paused before one particular scene, showing gamelin vessels meeting with distinctly human ships. First contact, Kira said softly. 3,000 Earth years ago. Reeves studied the mural with academic fascination. That contradicts everything we know about human gamelin relations. We were taught our species first encountered each other during the Mars colony incident. History becomes convenient mythology in wartime, Mako observed, examining other murals. These suggest centuries of peaceful interaction before. Something happened. The gate is ahead, Kira interrupted, leading them toward the central chamber. They entered a cavernous space dominated by a third-diameter arch of unknown metallic material. The arch pulsed with dormant energy, surrounded by control panels covered in centuries of dust. Davis scanned the chamber's perimeter, identifying defensive positions instinctively. How long to activate it? Moments, if the systems remain functional. Kira approached the main control panel, brushing away dust to reveal a handprint scanner. The prince placed his palm on the ancient device. The chamber responded immediately. Thousands of lights activated along the walls and ceiling, bathing the room in blue-white illumination. The arch itself surged with power, energy coalescing within its frame. The transport gate requires blood to establish the connection, Kira explained, finding a ceremonial dagger displayed near the controls. He drew the blade across his palm, wincing slightly. Royal DNA contains activation codes embedded at the cellular level. The prince pressed his bleeding hand against a crystal at the center of the control panel. The transport gate fully activated, creating a stable energy field within the arch. Through the shimmering portal, they glimpsed an ornate throne room filled with dignitaries in ceremonial attire. Velker's coronation preparations, Mako identified. We have less than an hour. A distant explosion shook the chamber, dust falling from the ceiling. Earth forces, Davis confirmed, checking his tactical display. They've reached the entrance. Moments later, armored figures appeared at the chamber's entrance. Captain Reynolds led the squad, his weather-worn face betraying shock at the scene before him. His squad took positions, weapons trained on Davis and the others. "Stand down, Lieutenant," Reynolds ordered, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Step away from the aliens." Davis remained beside Prince Kira, hands visible but stance protective. "Captain, this isn't what you think." Reynolds approached cautiously, weapon raised but finger outside the trigger guard. His eyes darted between Davis and the young Gamelin prince. 5 years fighting these creatures," Reynolds said, "and I find you babysitting their royalty." "Because the war is based on a lie," Davis responded. "Velker assassinated the king and framed humans for it. He's prolonging the conflict to seize power." Reynolds scoffed. "Convenient story. See for yourself," Davis nodded toward Kira's communication device. "All the evidence is there: Velker's transmissions, assassination plans, everything." Something in Reynolds' expression shifted. Subtle change. Davis had seen countless times when the veteran officer reassessed battlefield intelligence. Reynolds accepted the device, reviewing the data while keeping Davis in his peripheral vision. "This could be fabricated," Reynolds said, though his tone lacked conviction. "You know me, Captain. 14 campaigns together. Have I ever lied to you?" Before Reynolds could respond, weapons fire erupted from an adjacent chamber. Velker's forces had breached another entrance. "Decision time, Captain," Davis pressed. "Billions have died in this war. This could end it." Reynolds' weathered face hardened, eyes reflecting decades of combat experience. He glanced at the young Gamelin prince, then at the advancing enemy signatures on his tactical display. Something settled in his expression, the look of a man making peace with a momentous decision. "Martin, Zhao defensive positions at the north entrance," Reynolds ordered. "Jacobson, take your team to the east corridor, buy them time." He turned to Davis. "I'll report this site destroyed in the ice collapse. No survivors." Captain Davis began. "In this war, Lieutenant," Reynolds cut him off. "That's an order." The chamber shook with another explosion as Velker's forces pushed closer. Reynolds' team moved into position, creating a defensive perimeter around the transport gate. "Go now," Reynolds commanded, already directing his troops. Prince Kira stepped forward, facing Davis, Reeves, and Mako. "By my authority as heir to the Gamelin throne, I formally invite you to accompany me to Gamelin Prime under diplomatic protection according to the ancient laws of sanctuary." Davis nodded, lifting the weakened prince into his arms. "Ready?" "Ready," Kira confirmed. Davis stepped through the shimmering portal, the sensation like walking through a wall of static electricity. One moment he stood in an ancient ice cave. The next, his boots touched polished stone floors in the imperial palace throne room. The opulent chamber stretched before them, golden ornamentation adorning vaulted ceilings. Dignitaries and royal guards froze in stunned silence at the sudden activation of the transport gate and the appearance of a human carrying their prince. Reeves and Mako followed through the portal, materializing behind Davis as palace guards rushed forward, weapons raised. Lieutenant Mako stepped in front of Davis and the prince, drawing himself to attention despite his injuries. "Halt! I'm Lieutenant Mako of House Terk, Imperial Guard. I present His Royal Highness Prince Kira, rightful heir to the throne of Gamelin." The throne room erupted in chaos as palace guards surrounded them, uncertain whether to treat the humans as threats or the prince's guests. Davis maintained his protective stance, acutely aware they stood in the heart of enemy territory, first humans ever to set foot on Gamelin Prime. The crowd parted as a tall figure in ornate ceremonial robes approached. Grand Admiral Velker stopped mid-stride, his face transforming from confidence to shock to calculated composure within seconds. "What is the meaning of this?" Velker demanded, eyes fixed on Prince Kira. "How dare humans infiltrate our sacred palace?" He turned to the guards. "Seize these assassins at once." The guards moved forward, but Prince Kira raised his hand. Despite his weakened state, his voice carried the unmistakable authority of royal command. "Stand down. These humans are under my protection. They saved my life while you, Grand Admiral, left me to die." The guards hesitated, caught between conflicting orders. Davis tensed, ready to protect the prince if necessary, acutely aware of how outmatched they were. The standoff shattered as the throne room's main doors burst open. Commander Tellara strode in, flanked by a squad of elite Imperial guards with weapons ready. "Secure the room," she ordered, her troops immediately taking positions around the perimeter. She approached the throne, dropping to one knee before Prince Kira. "Your Highness, we received notification of the transport gate activation. I broke through Velker's blockade to reach you." The balance of power visibly shifted as royal guards began moving to Tellara's side, recognizing the chain of command. Velker's face contorted with rage. His hand moved to his ceremonial robe, extracting a concealed weapon. "You've ruined everything," he snarled, aiming directly at Prince Kira. Davis reacted without thinking, lunging in front of the prince as Velker fired. Searing pain exploded through his shoulder as the energy blast tore into flesh. Despite the wound, Davis's momentum carried him forward, tackling Velker to the ground. The Admiral's weapon skittered across the polished floor as Tellara's guards swarmed, securing the wood usurper. Davis rolled onto his back, vision blurring as blood spread across his uniform. Through the haze of pain, he watched Lieutenant Mako activate the palace communication system, broadcasting the confrontation throughout the capital. Prince Kira approached the ornate throne but remained standing before it. The young ruler addressed the stunned assembly, his voice steady and clear. "People of Gamelin, I have witnessed enough death. My first act as your ruler will be to seek peace with Earth." Davis fought to remain conscious as Dr. Race medical personnel rushed to his side. Dr. Reeves knelt beside him, working alongside Gamelin physicians to stabilize his condition. "Hang in there, Lieutenant," Reeves urged, applying pressure to the wound. "You're making history here." The Gamelin medical team used technology Davis had never seen, sealing the worst of the damage and administering treatments adapted hastily for human physiology. The pain subsided to a dull throb as they worked. "He requires specialized treatment," the chief physician informed Prince Kira. "Our methods are compatible but not optimal for human biology." Prince Kira nodded, then surprised everyone by kneeling beside Davis. "You will receive proper care on Earth, Lieutenant. But first, there is one final task we must complete together." Despite protests from the medical team, Prince Kira insisted on leading Davis to a secure communication chamber within the palace. Commander Tellara assisted Davis as they walked, his legs unsteady from blood loss and pain. The communication chamber contained technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. At Prince Kira's command, technicians established a direct connection to Earth's high command. "Are you ready, Lieutenant?" Prince Kira asked. Davis straightened despite the pain lancing through his shoulder. On the screen before them, the stunned faces of Earth's military leadership appeared, utterly unprepared for a transmission from the Gamelin throne roomlet Alone One, featuring one of their own officers standing beside the Gamelin heir. "This is Lieutenant James Davis, Earth Defense Force," Davis began, voice steadier than he felt. "I'm transmitting from Gamelin Prime at the invitation of Prince Kira, rightful heir to the Gamelin throne. Request immediate ceasefire for peace negotiations." The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds before Admiral Chen, Earth's Supreme Commander, found her voice. "Lieutenant Davis, is this transmission authentic? Are you under duress?" Davis looked at Prince Kira, then back to the screen. "No, Admiral, I'm here of my own free will, and I believe we have a real chance to end this and I believe we have a real chance to end this conflict before more lives are lost on both sides." Davis swayed slightly, the blood loss taking its toll. Prince Kira stepped forward, supporting him despite his own injuries. "I am Prince Kira of the Gamelin Empire," the young royal addressed the Earth leadership directly. "Grand Admiral Velker murdered my father and orchestrated this war to seize power. I have proof of his treachery, and am prepared to negotiate immediate cessation of hostilities." Admiral Chen's eyes narrowed, decades of military experience evident in her measured response. "We'll need to verify this information through proper channels." "There's no time," Davis interjected, grimacing through the pain. "Velker's forces are currently attempting to eliminate Prince Kira to complete his coup. Transmission location will be Comp Dr. Resaid soon." Dr. Reeves stepped into view. "Admiral, this is Dr. Nathan Reeves, Xenobiological Research Division. I've personally reviewed the evidence. It's authentic. This war has been perpetuated by deception on both sides." A tense silence followed as Admiral Chen conferred with other Earth officials off-screen. Davis fought to remain upright, the Gamelin medical treatments barely keeping him conscious. "We will initiate emergency protocols for ceasefire discussions," Admiral Chen finally stated. "Coordinates for neutral meeting ground will be transmitted on this frequency within 3 hours. Lieutenant Davis, your actions will be reviewed by command." "Understood, Admiral," Davis managed before the transmission ended. Commander Tellara approached immediately. "The Emperor's personal physicians await. You require immediate medical attention." Davis nodded weakly as palace medical staff transferred him to a hover stretcher. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Prince Kira addressing his people, the young ruler's voice clear and resolute as it echoed throughout the capital. 6 months later, Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Davis stood at attention in the Grand Ceremonial Hall of Earth's United Nations headquarters in New Geneva. His newly pressed dress uniform felt stiff against his skin, adorned with both Earth's highest military decorations and something unprecedented, the Royal Order of Gamelin, its crystalline surface catching the light with each breath. The reconstructed shoulder, where Velker's energy blast had struck, still ached despite the advanced surgery, a permanent reminder of his choice to shield the young prince. Davis scanned the magnificent hall, still struggling to comprehend the transformation that had occurred in less than a year. Where once existed only hatred and bloodshed between their species, now Gamelin and human diplomat Dr. Onversed in mixed groups. Many used translation devices developed by Dr. Reeves, who had ingeniously combined Gamelin linguistic technology with human interface design. Davis. He turned to find Captain Reynolds approaching through the crowd. Despite their complicated history, the two men embraced briefly, their friendship rekindled during the intense peace negotiations. "Still can't believe they promoted you after that stunt," Reynolds said, now wearing the insignia of an admiral following his pivotal role in facilitating the ceasefire. "Still can't believe you disobeyed direct orders," Davis countered with a half-smile. The great Captain Reynolds, always by the book, suddenly deciding to trust a rogue staff sergeant. Reynolds gestured toward the viewport overlooking Earth's North Atlantic, where diplomatic vessels from both fleets held position in a joint honor formation. 6 months ago, those ships would have been trying to vaporize each other. "What changed your mind that day?" Davis asked, the question that had lingered between them for months. Reynolds looked away momentarily. "I've spent 15 years fighting this war. Lost my brother at Tau Ceti, my wife at Barnard Star. Somewhere along the line, winning became more important than understanding why we were fighting." He straightened his posture. "When you showed me that evidence, I realized we'd all been played, human and gamelan alike." A gentle chime silenced the hall. The massive doors opened to reveal Prince Kurano, officially Emperor Kira I of the Gamelan Empire. Though young by Gamelan standards, the past 6 months had matured him visibly. He walked with confident bearing, dressed in formal imperial regalia, but notably without the traditional war medals previous emperors had prominently displayed. Commander Tellara followed precisely 3 paces behind, now serving as Imperial Chancellor after dismantling Velker's power structure throughout the Gamelan military. Lieutenant Mako walked beside her, his Prodoctorian to Commander of the Imperial Guard recognition of his unwavering loyalty. Dr. Reeves followed in the procession, now the first human scientific liaison to the Gamelan Academy of Sciences. President Sophia Mason stepped forward to meet Emperor Kira at the center of the hall. The two leaders greeted each other with the newly established diplomatic gesturia clasp of forearms followed by a slight bow. 6 months ago, we stood at the brink of mutual annihilation, President Mason began, her voice carrying throughout the hall. Today, we begin a new chapter in our shared history. Emperor Kira responded in carefully practiced English. The war that divided us was built on deception. The peace we build today shall be founded on truth. Davis watched as the leaders moved to the ceremonial table where the peace accord awaited their signatures. The document established not only a formal end to hostilities, but created frameworks for cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, and mutual defense agreements. Most significantly, it included a comprehensive truth and reconciliation process addressing atrocities committed by both sides. As Emperor Kira prepared to sign, he looked up, scanning the crowd until his eyes found Davis. With a gesture that surprised the assembled diplomats, the young emperor beckoned him forward. "Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Davis," Emperor Kira announced formally, "step forward." Davis approached, maintaining proper military bearing despite his confusion, and stood at attention before the ceremonial table. "The document we signed today exists because of a single decision," Emperor Kira stated, addressing the entire assembly. "When this soldier found an injured enemy child in a war zone, he chose compassion over protocol. When he discovered that child's identity, he chose peace over advantage." Kira turned directly to Davis. "Your actions remind us that even in our darkest moments, we retain the capacity to see each other not as enemies, but as living beings worthy of protection." Chancellor Tellara stepped forward carrying an ornate box. From it, she removed a crystal vial containing luminescent blue fluid and an ancient-looking scroll. "Staff Sergeant Davis," Emperor Kira continued, "in accordance with traditions dating back to the founding of our empire, I name you Kurdavel Blood Guardian of the Emperor." He lifted the crystal vial. "This contains my royal blood, freely given, the blood you protected at the risk of your own life. In Gamelan tradition, this makes us brothers beyond birth." Davis remained rigidly at attention, processing the shock as Emperor Kira presented him with the vial and scroll. Chancellor Telara explained quietly that this ceremonial adoption into the royal family represented the highest honor possible for a non-Gamelin, never before granted in their 1,000-year recorded history. President Mason recovered quickly from this unplanned ceremony. Staff Sergeant Davis, for extraordinary service beyond the call of duty, for actions that directly led to the cessation of hostilities and the saving of countless lives, I hereby promote you to the rank of Major and appoint you as the first military liaison officer to the Gamelin Imperial Court. The hall erupted in applause as Davis accepted both honors, still struggling to comprehend what had just transpired. Emperor Kira and President Mason turned back to the peace accord, signing with ceremonial pens crafted from materials from both worlds. The moment their signatures completed the document, notification systems throughout human and Gamelin space announced the official end of the war. During the reception that followed, Davis found himself constantly answering questions about his improbable journey from combat soldier to adopted member of the Gamelin royal family. Seeking a moment's respite, he ipped away to a private balcony overlooking the illuminated gardens of the UN complex. Dr. Reeves joined him moments later, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. "Thought you might need this," the scientist said, handing one to Davis. "It's not every day you get adopted by an alien emperor." Davis accepted the drink gratefully. "I still can't believe any of this is real. 6 months ago, I was shooting at Gamelins in urban combat. Now I'm supposed to live in their royal palace as some kind of honorary prince." "Blood guardian," Reeves corrected. "Chancellor Telara explained it to me. It's less about royalty and more about trust. You're the only non-Gamelin ever granted access to their inner sanctum." He paused. "Are you ready for that responsibility?" The balcony door slid open to admit Admiral Reynolds and Lieutenant Commander Michael Davis Jeffries' brother from the Earth Fleet's Engineering Corps. Michael embraced his brother tightly. "When they told me you were missing in action on Proxima B, I thought I'd lost you," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Now look at your diplomatic immunity on 2 worlds and blood brother to an emperor." "That's not even the best part," Reynolds interjected. "Tell them what happened to Velker." Davis took a sip of champagne. Traditional Gamelin law would have called for his public execution for treason. Emperor Kira refused to begin his reign with bloodshed. He paused. Instead, Velker has been sentenced to spend the remainder of his life establishing and operating refugee resettlement programs for those displaced by the war, both human and Gamelin. "Poetic justice," Reeves observed. "The man who orchestrated destruction forced to rebuild what he destroyed." Chancellor Telara approached with a formal bow. "Forgive the intrusion, but Emperor Kira requests Major Davis's presence. There is one final matter to address before the ceremonies conclude." Davis followed Telara to a secure communication room adjacent to the main hall. Emperor Kira stood before a large display screen showing a real-time transmission from a Gamelin medical facility. The distinctive features of Proxima B were visible in orbit. "Major Davis," Emperor Kira began, "when you found me on that contested world, you spoke of your family, your brother, his wife, and their children. You showed me their image from your tactical vest." The Emperor gestured to the screen. "During our initial peace negotiations, I ordered a comprehensive review of all detention facilities throughout Gamelin territory, with particular attention to Proxima B." Davis felt his pulse quicken as Emperor Kira continued. 3 weeks ago, we discovered a previously unreported civilian internment camp operated under Velker's direct authority. Among the survivors were these individuals." The screen changed to show a woman and 2 children, a boy around 10 and a girl approximately 8. Davis staggered, gripping the edge of a nearby console for support. "Sarah," he whispered, recognizing his sister-in-law, "and the kids, Thomas and Ellie." His voice broke. They were reported killed during the evacuation of the Proxima B research colony. Michael received confirmation over a year ago. Another of Velker's deceptions, Chancellor Tellara explained. He maintained several secret facilities housing high-value prisoners, particularly those with scientific or technical knowledge. Your sister-in-law's expertise in terraforming technology made her a target for capture rather than elimination. Emperor Kira stepped closer. They are currently receiving medical treatment aboard our hospital ship in Proxima orbit. Once cleared, they will be transported to Earth. I wanted you to be the one to tell your brother. Davis struggled to maintain his composure, military discipline barely containing the surge of emotion. Your Majesty, I don't know how to thank you. There is no need, Emperor Kira responded. This is what peace looks like, Major Davis. Not merely the absence of war, but the healing of wounds and the restoration of what was lost. He gestured toward the door. Your brother waits outside. Would you like to give him the news? Minutes later, the Davis brothers stood together in the communication room, Michael staring in disbelief at the image of his family. The brothers embraced, tears flowing freely as Emperor Kira and Chancellor Tellara withdrew silently. The next morning, as Earth's sun rose over New Geneva, Major Jeffrey Davis stood on the observational deck of the Gamelin diplomatic vessel, preparing to depart for Proxima B. Earth and Gamelin medical teams had cleared Sarah and the children for transport back to Earth. DRD Davis had volunteered to accompany the mission as his first official duty as military liaison. Dr. Reeves joined him at the viewport with 2 steaming cups of coffee. First day on the new job, he remarked, handing one to Davis. Ready to make history again. Davis accepted the coffee gratefully. I'm just a soldier who made a choice in the field, Doc, nothing more. Sometimes that's all it takes, Reeves responded. One person making one choice at the right moment. He gestured toward the viewport where both Earth and Gamelin vessels prepared for the journey. Look out there. Fleets that spent years trying to destroy each other now flying in formation to rescue survivors. Commander Tellara approached from the ship's command center. We will reach Proxima B in approximately 4 to 7 hours, Major Davis. The Emperor has requested that you personally oversee the transfer of your family members. Davis nodded appreciatively. Please convey my gratitude to His Majesty. Tellara hesitated before adding, I must confess, when I first learned a human soldier had found our prince, I assumed the worst. Our propaganda had portrayed your species as barbaric and merciless. She paused. I am grateful to have been proven wrong. We both were, Davis acknowledged. Each side demonized the other until we couldn't see the truth anymore. As the ship accelerated to faster than light speed, the stars elongated into brilliant streaks beyond the viewport. Davis placed his hand against the cold transparency, contemplating the vast distance between worlds now connected by something stronger than hatred. He remembered carrying a frightened alien child through collapsing tunnels, across fracturing ice fields, and finally to his rightful places, made not from military strategy, but from the simple recognition of another living being in need. 2 days later, Davis stood in the medical bay of the Gamelin hospital ship orbiting Proxima B. The door slid open, revealing Sarah and the children, thin but healthy. Thomas rushed forward first, embracing his uncle fiercely. Ellie followed more cautiously, not remembering her uncle clearly after years of captivity. Sarah approached last, tears streaming down her face. Michael, she asked tentatively. Waiting for you on Earth, Davis assured her. He couldn't believe it when I told him you were alive. None of us could. 3 weeks later, after ensuring his family's safe return and reunion with Michael, Davis assumed his official duties at the Gamelin Imperial Palace. His quarters in the historic diplomatic wing overlooked the capital city's main plaza, where Gamelin citizens now regularly interacted with the first human cultural delegation. On his first night in his new residence, Davis unpacked his few personal belongings. He placed the family photograph, the same one he had shown Prince Kira, in the abandoned medical outpost in his desk. Beside it, he carefully positioned the crystal vial containing the Emperor's blood and the ancient scroll detailing his status as Kurdavel. A communication panel chimed softly, displaying Emperor Kira's royal seal. Davis accepted the transmission, bowing slightly as the young Emperor's image appeared. "Blood Guardian," Kira greeted him formally before his expression softened. "Or perhaps simply Davis, as you asked me to call you when we first met." "Either is fine, Your Majesty," Davis responded, "though I'm still getting used to both." Emperor Kira smiled, a gesture he'd been practicing to put humans at ease. "I wish to ensure you're settling into your new quarters appropriately. Chancellor Telara worried they might not meet human comfort requirements." "They're more than adequate," Davis assured him. "Far better than the tunnels under New Anchorage." The Emperor's expression grew momentarily solemn. "Those tunnels have been converted into a memorial. Both human and Gamelin architects are designing a monument to be placed where you first found Meth, place where peace began, though neither of us knew it at the time." After concluding the conversation, Davis stepped onto his balcony. The 3 moons of Gamelin Prime illuminated the city below, casting multicolored light across entirely alien, yet increasingly familiar architecture. Citizens moved through illuminated streets, no longer darkened by wartime security measures. In the distance, the first human architectural project on Gamelona Joint Cultural Center rose, alongside ancient imperial structures. Davis considered the extraordinary chain of events that brought him here, to a world he once knew only as the home of enemies. He remembered the weight of a small Gamelin child on his back as he navigated through war-torn ruins, the impossible choices faced in abandoned outposts, and the moment he stepped between an assassin's weapon and a young prince. As the capital city spread before him, Major Jeffrey Davis, blood guardian to Emperor Kira I, watched the distant lights of human and Gamelin vessels moving through the night sky, not as warriors engaged in combat, but as explorers charting a new course together.